What's up, guys? I'm Steven Mosso. In today's episode, we're going to be discussing what is wrong with the Madden franchise right now. Now, if you are somebody who plays the game every single year, or if you're somebody who is a member of the subreddit, then you are probably already aware of the countless issues that the game has that has been plaguing the franchise for some time now. If you go to Metacritic, the user score almost every single year is under 2, which is pretty bad. If you go on the subreddit, at this point, it's basically just a collection of fans who are voicing their frustration with the game, and there are countless issues that seem to go unaddressed every single year. Now, for a little bit of a quick background, we all know that the NFL paired with EA, they signed an exclusive license deal all the way back in late 2004 to be the only NFL game, so there really isn't competition. So fans lately have been left with only one option, and that is Madden. As I've already mentioned several times, there are countless other issues. They range from things like lack of depth in franchise mode, things like cheesing in online, which has led to a very odd competitive scene. Also things like player models looking very off. There are countless issues, but the one to me right now that is the biggest one and what I will be focusing on in this episode is the physics and the animations in the game, and I'll be showing some clips throughout that kind of show what I mean by this. So physics and animations, I don't think they were always a problem with Madden. If you go back to the PS2 games, like most games, they were more bare bones, they were skeleton, they were more simple than what we have now. But with the demand for realism, with technology advancing, people wanted something that simulated reality and looked more authentic. So what Madden ended up doing was implementing longer, more played out animations. They added things like the Odell Beckham catch, a David Tyree catch, things that we saw on television, and they added those into the game. And initially, they were pretty cool at first, but what we didn't know is that this kind of concept would be implemented throughout the entire game and restrict user control. Now, let's look at how does this restrict user control. First, we must discuss the Odell Beckham catch itself. Why is it so appealing to so many people? And frankly, it is because the degree of difficulty of the catch. What he did was essentially impossible, and when we all saw it, we were all shocked that someone could even accomplish that. And then when we do it in a game, at first, like I said, it was very cool, but you begin to realize that you're just aggressive catching like any other catch. You're clicking triangle, and the game is gifting you, in a sense, an animation, whether it's based on ratings or whether it's based on positioning. It's less about what the user is doing and more about what the game is gifting you. Now, if we look at 2020 and the gaming scene in general, you look at what Ninja was doing on Fortnite, or you look at what someone like Shroud is doing on Call of Duty, or just a ton of competitive gamers, people are so infatuated with what they're doing when they play these games because of their user skill, what they are doing. It's not the game gifting them anything. We're truly getting to see what they are able to do with the game, which is very contradictory to what I just said about Madden and it kind of gifting you an animation. So getting an animation that could be viewed as advantageous is of course a problem in and of itself, but another thing that kind of plagues the game with this is that physics goes out the window. Once this animation is triggered, nothing else can interact with the people who are in this animation, which leads to some very odd looking gameplay, and I'll be showing you guys some clips as to how this happens. So the first one we have here is a clip between the Dolphins and the Raiders. You look here, Derek Carr drops back, makes a pass, it is intercepted by AJ Bouye, who gets the ball, and the now defender, who is on offense, originally a tight end, he runs at Bouye full speed. Again, this is an athlete running a 40-yard dash, 250 plus pounds, has a helmet and pads on, colliding with a lighter AJ Bouye who has no momentum, and there is no effect on him because an animation is not triggered. Physics has now gone out the window. He falls over like paper mache, while there is essentially no effect on Bouye at all. Now here we have another example. This is between the 49ers and the Dolphins. I know I'm going to get some comments saying maybe you just shouldn't use the Dolphins. That's very funny. All jokes aside, here is what's happening. Jerick McKinnon does a juke, and in order to get this animation to work, it essentially changes the path of the defender, even though he was in a line to hit the player, it changes the path in order for it to fit the animation. So at that point, again, that doesn't align with this idea of user control that people want in 2020. Now, to take a look at another clip, this one has features the quarterback. He's throwing a pass out into the flats to the running back who catches the ball, but what happens is it doesn't trigger a tackle animation. So this doesn't register that a tackle is even happening. So again, you have a 250-pound linebacker, I believe it's Demario Davis, running full speed at an unsuspecting running back, colliding into him with no effect whatsoever, falling over like he's paper mache. His legs aren't even touching the ground at one point. He's kind of floating over the earth like an elf or something. It doesn't really make sense, and he just continues running as if nothing happened. It doesn't make sense, and I don't care if I'm benefiting from this lack of physics and these animations, or if I'm the one losing because of them. I just don't like the idea of having this kind of power in the game. It really does break the immersion and make the game look very bad. So to switch over from Madden real quick and to talk about a game that I think does physics the right way and is a perfect example of just pure user control, let's take a look at Rocket League, which is essentially soccer but with cars. And in this game, you only have a handful of maneuvers. You can boost, you can spin, you can jump, you can air roll, or you can hit your brakes. And everything that happens in this game is dependent on the user input. You can definitely juke somebody out, but it is not the game gifting you any sort of animation. It's you properly hitting the brakes and the defender not being locked into anything, but him just missing the ball. It happens organically and it comes across as very authentic. And in terms of physics in this game, if you hit the ball at a certain speed, it is going to go in the opposite direction with a certain amount of power. It's just simple physics. If you go faster, it's going to go harder. If you hit it going at a slower speed, it's going to go lighter. And I think Madden needs to find a way to implement this simple kind of physics-based engine into their game. And I understand that Madden has superstars, it has ratings, so certain things like that, there needs to be a little bit more room for forgiveness, and it needs to kind of be more in the middle instead of just being completely physics-based. But I do think over everything, physics should reign supreme. I don't like the idea that just because Lamar Jackson is a 99 overall that he could somehow from a standstill truck a linebacker who has 50 more pounds on him and is coming at him at a full speed. To me, that just doesn't make sense, and it breaks the immersion because it looks very odd. I don't think that Jerry Rice, just because he was one of the greatest wide receivers of all time, that he could take hit after hit and while he's falling continue to just truck defenders. I don't think that makes sense. And I don't think that while the ball is still in the air, it should lock both the defender and the receiver into an animation where essentially everything that happens after that is already predetermined by which animation it's selected. It removes user control, and like I said, everything once that animation starts just goes out the window and begins to look like more of an effort for the game to play itself, and I'm assisting it through that, which is of course never a good feeling for a game to have when we want this kind of user control. So that is how I'm going to wrap it up, guys. I would love to know your comments down below. As always, if you want to follow me on Twitter, that is @ShadySteven. If you want to follow the podcast account, I do have an NFL podcast. I talk a lot about the Dolphins. I get some locker room access to some games. I get some interviews and stuff over there. That is @ViaTheSource on Twitter. It would mean a lot. And then, guys, I do have some giveaways planned for the future. I've done some on Twitter, but if I get an audience on YouTube, of course, I would be glad to include the YouTube audience in there as well. Guys, you probably know what's coming next. If you could subscribe, it would mean a lot. It would be a huge help. I have, I think, 234 subscribers right now. I'm trying to hit the 1,000 mark, and that would be a huge milestone for me, so that would help a lot, guys. But that is how I'm going to wrap it up. Until next time, I'm Steven Masso, and this was Via the Source.